Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of the Grid Slot Gavra Racing podcast. You are joined by Tucson 028, myself,
Me, Tiger Assassin.
And me, ex-Natty G.
and welcome to episode 8 of the podcast. We've done this for 8 weeks now, but for this episode, we have a bit of a mix up for you. This week, we're not going to have any driver interviews. Instead, we're going to be talking about the new game, but all of that will come later because before that, we have what happened in Gavra Racing this week, and we're going to kick things straight off with a Project Cars 2 Academy, which is in its final race this week. So, all of our Project Cars 2 stuff coming to an end now in the next 2 weeks. But anyway, the Academy race was around Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and in qualifying, Bruno Kolev took pole position by, get this, 0.006 seconds, guys, from
Wait,
Diecross to 6,000ths
six
of a second.
thousandths.
Yep, by 6,000ths of a second, with Diecrox rounding off the top 3 as well by only 2 tenths off the pace. But yeah, we're really, really close stuff there in the academy. Good to see all of those very quick drives at the head of the field. Hopefully, moving up in towards other Project Cars 2 stuff. Hey, maybe they can give Mr. Javier Ranz a run for his money in the Renault Megane trophy. But hopefully, moving into the race, anyway, we had a clean start to the race. Is always nice to see in the academy. Good to see the drivers getting away cleanly there and not causing any unwanted collisions. Into Fanya, however, we had some strange game physics when I was watching back the stream. I was a bit like, well, how has that happened? But anyway, to sum up the incident for you all, Dolly Gura ran a bit wide into Fanya corner, which is the high speed chicane after, uh, not Lacombe, it's the one after the high speed double left hander of P1, I think it is. Yeah, that's where Fanya is.
I
And
have
then
no clue.
yeah, but I think Dolly Gura was in second, and they ran a bit wide into the second part of that chicane, causing a mini pile up behind them. But then when they came round that left-hander, I just saw a purple Ferrari flying up into the stratosphere and landing back down. And I have absolutely no idea what has happened there, but hopefully it's
He got
something
so much
developers.
height.
Yeah, I know. I posted a picture of it in our general chat. I'll post it in the community content page on the Discord server as well if you want to have a look at what happened there. But yeah, a flying purple Ferrari of emo. Just don't even know how that happened. Yeah, it's got some strange physics Project Cars 2. Hopefully, it's something the developers can work on for Project Cars 3, which comes out in a few months. Um, anyway, deck paint then span off the track, allowing Dolly Gura back through. Those who had a good battle in the opening stages, a couple of mistakes creeping in there, though, towards the end of that battle, putting pay to that fight we saw out on track. Dolly Gura then also spun at Fanya, so this kind of ended that battle. And then towards the end of the race, there was a massive crash for Emo at Stavelot. Just got on the power a little bit too early, it looked like, and just careered off into the barrier on the left-hand side. But how did you see it, ex-Natty?
Yeah, I agree. But to power too early, by getting on the power too early, he's litting up the rears, and that's just sent him spinning into the wall. Unfortunate for him to have that accident.
Yeah, very unfortunate there. And well, good. We have for someone we haven't really noted mentioned so far in the Project Cars Academy roundup this week is Bruno Kolev, who rounded off the season with a dominant win. We didn't see him after the first corner, really. He was just gone. But anyway, well done to them, and thanks for the donuts, Bruno. Hope to see you further up in the Project Cars 2 sphere next season. But moving on from that, we're going to go straight into Ferrari 333 SP. Last time I'll be having to say
The
that
tongue
this
twister
season.
league.
The Ferrari tongue twister championship. If you're a long time listener of the podcast, but that was also at Spa-Francorchamps. So no impressive geography stuff from me so far this episode. But for those of you who didn't know, last week Flip Flip actually rounded out the championship with a win last time out in Silverstone, I believe it was, and he was on the pole position again last week with ESR Chef and Javier Ranz, your Renault Megane champion. We'll come to that in a sec. Rounding out the top 3, and they were covered by half a second. So things are getting close. Still close at the top of the Ferrari 333 SP racing there. Unfortunately, we had a couple drivers miss the race, but I'm sure they'll be back for season 2 or 3 of the Ferrari 333 SP racing, Ferrari tongue twister racing. Anyway, we had a little bit of bumping towards the rear of the field, down towards La Source, or Turn 1, as it's known. Heike and Marco had a ding-dong battle through the bus stop. There's a bit of contact down towards Turn 1 there. Tiger, how hard is it to spot your braking points in such a closely contested battle like those two were, obviously?
Yeah, it could be difficult sometimes. It really depends on where you are on track and what the situation is. Like, sometimes if you're really intense into the battle and you're wheel to wheel with someone, you're more focused on trying to get the overtake than maybe a couple of other things on track. But if you're a good enough driver, you're focusing on everything at the same time. Where the other driver is, where you need to brake, and sometimes as well, some drivers can look at other drivers and where they're braking and try and copy their braking style, and sometimes that might not work. So it can be different in different situations, but getting a braking point in a close battle, sometimes you might need to brake a little bit later than the other car. Try and force them onto the outside lines. You can take it down the inside, but yeah, it depends on the situation. But if you're in a close, intense battle, it's got to be one of the things that crosses your mind. But sometimes as well, it's one of the things that that you might not have to think about until the end, because you're so focused on trying to keep it as clean as possible between the two drivers.
All right, yeah, thanks for the insight, Tyler. I think that those two did come together in the exit of Malmedy, which is the corner after the Com at the end of the straight, where both cars went off the track and into the wall with massive damage. They were hugely unlucky there, but then again, just reiterating what Tiger says, how important it is to know your car's space and respect the space of the car in front. And we'll go on to that a little bit later as well. But yeah, huge unlucky there for both of those drivers. But Aguilera then came into the pits with heavy damage. Unfortunately, didn't quite catch it on camera on stream, but he had heavy damage. Then Javier Ranz, I don't know how other way to put this in other than he had a monumental crash over the top of Radion. The rear just stepped out on him a little bit, and he just flew across the track and into the barrier. He made a good joke about it in the Discord chat before. He said something like, anyone interested in the Ferrari 333 SP car? Yeah, only thing is it's missing a bumper and a right wheel, but those are both torn off in that massive crash there. So unlucky for the Renault Megane champ. But anyway, Flip rounded off a championship winning season with a race win, rounding off an excellent season for him in the Ferrari Tongue Twister Championship, or 323 race. We're looking forward to seeing that championship next season, and congratulations from all of us here at the podcast. That's going to round off the Ferrari 333 SP Championship then. As we're going to move on to our two series that are still going on. Still got one race left now in the Ginetta Evolution and Renault Megane. So we're going to start off with the Renault Megane's trophy, actually, as that Javier went 5 for 5 in Imola, grabbing pole once again by 1 second from Faster and GTS R12, rounding out the top three. And I'm going to come to you first, Natty. Do you think he can go 6 for 6 next time out in Spa?
Yeah, I reckon he's got it. I reckon with his confidence in his previous form, I reckon he's going to definitely try his best to make it 6 out of 6. It'll be a great stat to have against his name. So I reckon he'll be trying his best to try and get that stat.
What about you, Tiger?
Yeah, I reckon so. He's a very quick driver. Like, we've seen it, he's constantly just performance after performance, and it's just, when you're on good form like that as a driver, you want to keep it going, and his confidence will be high. It'll be up there, and yeah, I mean, I'm sure most of us know what the feeling is after a win as you go into your next go into your next race. Your confidence is high, and yeah, I'm sure I'll have a lot of that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo you two there. I think he's just a step and a half ahead of the rest of the field at the moment, and we're going to have to do something pretty special to try and catch him. But anyway, in the race, we had a clean start from all drivers through the first few corners. It was raining, however, it was a wet start, so you had to see how that played out in that race. The academy race around that track did see quite a few incidents. We had 3 cars in the barrier, continuing on from that previous scene. We had 3 cars in the barrier at the end of lap 1, King Quinn GTS R12 and ESR Chef all in the barrier there at the end of the first lap, just showing how treacherous the Imola circuit is. A circuit I really wish they'd add to the F1 game because it's quite sick. But wishful thinking speaking. Moving on, GTS R12 did spin again. Natty, what do you think happened there to GTS?
So obviously it's a wet race, so traction will be, limited. There's not going to be as much traction as there would be in the dry. And what I think he's probably done is appears to be like a medium / high-ish speed corner. So I think he's carried maybe a little bit too much speed, got into the power a bit too early, and then that's just caused the rear of his car to snap. And then, as we all saw, sent him off into the grass and the barrier.
Sent off into the shadow realm. I was hoping you'd have gone for there. But anyway, continuing on that, he had a lot of drivers getting caught out in those tricky conditions, as Natty just stated. Obviously, traction is at a premium when it starts to rain. So, yeah, it's very tricky to keep the car on track. We had Javier Ranz. He made it 5 from 5 poles. Also made it 5 from 5 victories, taking the win in Imola by 22.2 seconds over faster A14. And ESR Chef rounded out the top 3 there. ESR also made a great recovery drive after having that first lap incident. He was one of the cars involved in the 3 cars in the war on the exit of the final corner on lap 1. But anyway, we're going to move across the continent to Silverstone, where we had the Ginetta Evolution race. Had to get some geography stuff in there at some point, everyone. Sorry about that. But in qualifying, Lonnie took pole by 0.6 of a second. However, it wouldn't be his teammate in second place, making another 1-2, because Boston Rowe qualified P2 with Bessar rounding out the top 3. Bessar with 2 A's there, so I went for that. But speaking of which, he had an awesome start, swooping around the outside of the first corner and into the lead off the start. So Bessar had a really, really, really great start there. Nice to see. We had a lot of 3-wide moments up into Village as well, which is also great to see that epic racing there. Marco's made their way back up through the field. And Natty, how important is it to have a reliable teammate like Marco in a closely contested championship like in the Ginetta Championship? Obviously, you had Antelopen in the freshman series this year, and you two were both quite close to each other and tried to go for that Constructors' Championship.
So yeah, as well, obviously a teammate is someone on the same team as you. So it is good when you have a reliable and a teammate you can trust. Because as teammates, it's devastating when you collide. So hopefully we see 2 teammates working together. Slipstreaming each other to try and make up as much time as possible. So I think obviously it's important to try and have a good reliable teammate. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. It's good to have a good reliable teammate.
So a teammate is a driver who drives on the same team as you, ex-Natty 2020. That's going in some kind of quote book somewhere. Mike spun off the track on the exit of Chapel. It's hugely unlucky there for them after making quite a nice overtake. But yeah, that's unlucky for them. But we had Dunlop Swee, and I'm sure Ty will be happy about this. He made an epic dive down the inside of Brooklands, getting
Love
past
that.
Pete and up into 8th place. A true Tiger Assassin-esque dive bomb. And speaking of which, we have him in the podcast. So what did you think of the move, Mr. Tiger Assassin?
Oh, it was excellent. I mean, I can't fault the dive bomb. It was I wouldn't say it was wasn't one of the best, but it was still a decent dive bomb. And maybe if they were a little bit closer, and if there was just a little bit more in terms of close racing between them, it would have made the dive bomb a bit better. But it was still really good and a good pass. But sometimes you've got to go for those high risk, high reward maneuvers, as I always say, and a lot like I've noticed I'm a lot like Daniel Ricciardo in that kind of aspect. Is he's good on the brakes but he's good on the brakes, isn't he? Into corners, goes for a lot of late braking maneuvers and down into corners. But no, it's a good move from him, and he got the position and he was rewarded for it.
Nice analysis there from Mr. Tiger Assassin. But in a cruel twist of fate for Dunlop Swee, after that, literally 2 seconds after that amazing dive bomb, he spun off on the exit of Luffield there. It was hugely unfortunate to see. Just lost the rear, it looked like, on the exit curb. But Lonnie then was chasing down Besser for the lead of the race. Remember, he started on pole, lost the lead at turn 1, but then he made a move back down the inside of Besser for the lead of the race. And then we had Ciavetta and Boston Rowe going at it for 5th place, but Boston then spun out at Cops there. He was just hugely unlucky. It's such an easy thing to do, just to drop the rear of the car on the high-speed right-hander there. A very similar thing happened to you in the Premier Series, though, Natty. How just to explain to our listeners, how hard is that corner?
So obviously it's a pretty high speed corner. So you want to try and take as much speed through it as you can, and obviously, if you want to, because it's high speed right hander, you try and position your car as far to the left hand side as you can. But obviously, the risk of that is you getting onto the grass on the left and then spinning out. But then, obviously, a wider line will have a tighter apex, and you can carry more speed through the corner. But also, because it's a high speed corner, it's going to you've got it's obviously if you carry too much speed, you're going to spin on the exit, and if you go too wide, get onto the curb, or go even wider onto the grass, then that can really affect your race. And obviously, spinning, or as I did in the Premier Series, have a half spin. I was able to catch mine, but yeah, it's one of those corners where you either get it perfect or there can be some consequences.
It's a good analysis there. I think there's a couple mic problems there, but we'll have a look at that for the next episode. But Delavan and Marco then went wheel to wheel again. They came together in the chicane, and Marco caught a huge air. Not for the first time it happened at that chicane, actually. But how did you see it, Mr. Tiger Assassin?
Yeah, it was once again there's weird physics in Project Cars 2, but no, it looked like, to be fair, and going down the inside, it looked like he came off worse than the driver that he hit into, that took air, and he managed to come off worse somehow in in that collision. But yeah, some more weird game physics there from Project Cars 2.
Oh, yeah, sorry about the scuffling from my end, but yeah, so unfortunate to see that there. I think any time a car catches massive air, you gotta hope they don't have enough damage to put them out of the race. But nice to see that they didn't have any terminal damage area. People in the
Definitely,
pits once again with half the race left to go. Hopefully that's something we can have a look at for the next season of Ginetta Evolution to introduce some more strategic plays into the race. But moving on, Marco and Dalavan went back at it again. Well, this is a nice meme 2016 for you. As with an epic tussle through the opening 3 corners, Marco then went to the inside, and a beautiful move, I must say, from Marco's there down the inside into, is it Vale? I believe it is. Yeah, I believe it's Vale, and just to get past David and back up into 4th position. It was.
Is it where the pit lane entry is? Is it that corner? The corner just after the pit lane entry?
Oh no, sorry, not Vale. Brooklands. Sorry,
Brooklands. Okay,
yeah,
I was gonna say no. Vale's all the way at the end of the track.
Yeah, that would make a lot more sense. But
Yeah.
yeah. So Marcos and Delavan went back at it with a move from Marcos into Brooklands. Sorry, it was a clean, cutthroat, and deadly. That was a wonderful move there from Marcos. Thanks for the great racing. But then Delavan went wide and it allowed Lonnie to go through and up into the lead once again. This is after the pit stops now. Then so a couple of cars out of position. So Lonnie did have to get the lead back on track, and we had Pet, Bib, and David going wheel to wheel, and in what must have been one of the unluckiest moments in Gavra racing I think I've ever seen. Pet went off track and got a tank slapper before just tagging David's rear end, and then got T-boned by Boston, who had nowhere to go. I felt sorry for Pet, Bib, and Boston because neither of them could do anything to avoid the accident. And then Pet Bib, who had even more damage, tried to rejoin the track before having a head-on collision with Marco.
Yeah. Can I just put something there quickly? It was just such an unfortunate chain of events that happened. Like, I've never seen anything like it. It's funny but it's not funny at the same time. It's just I've never seen anything like it before. It was just unfortunate collision after collision on that corner. But no, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, hugely unlucky there for both drivers. I think we've had Tiger's 2 cents on the issue. What about you, Natty?
Yeah, obviously getting taken out in a race is, it's frustrating and annoying. But when you get that much bad luck in effectively 2 corners, it's just unbelievable to watch.
Yeah, it's truly heart wrenching for all of us here at the podcast team. But anyway, Pet Bib did come into the pits with rear end damage as well, so he had another crash somewhere on his in lap to the pits. So bad luck continuing there for Pet Bib, unfortunately. But Lonnie then did manage to bring home the win with Dalavan and Bessar rounding out the podium. What a race that was! I think the Ginetta Evolution for me this week was the best race in Project Cars 2. And I'm heavily looking forward to the season finale in Spa. But anyway, that's going to bring to an end Project Cars 2 this week, and I'm going to hand over to your lead commentator from the Gran Turismo Sport Championship, Mr. X Natty G.
So, thank you very much. And last week was round 8 in the GT Sport League, where the drivers were driving at the Kyoto Driving Park. But just like last week, and coincidentally the week before, we're going to start in qualifying. And yet again, in his 4th race in the league, Play Dutchy gets his 4th pole position of the season by almost 7/10. So it's a pretty quick qualifying session from him. And we had 2 new drivers in the league who are keen to impress on their debut. Those were Holland Campion and Cryptech. Holland Campion making himself a full-time driver now rather than just a replacement. And Cryptech, who joined in the Aston Martin, same car as Tiger drives. And also Holland Campion driving in the Jaguar F-Type, one of my personal favourite cars in the GR3 category. And they both had a clean qualifying session roughly in the midfield. But just like every single race in this league, the midfield is within, I'd say, 2 or 3 tenths of each other. So it was a good and close qualifying session for everyone, actually. But on to the start of the race, and it wasn't as action-packed as last week. However, it definitely was fun to watch as all the drivers were following each other really close together through the tricky, very twisty sections in the opening parts of the track. Obviously, dirty air being a factor that these drivers have to deal with. But however, later on into the race, we saw many drivers seem to have a few issues at turn 18 and turn 19, the medium-low speed right-left chicane. And Holland Campion, unfortunately, was the first to go wide and hit the barrier, causing damage to the front-hand side of his car. Front-hand side? Don't know if that's a phrase, but the front side. The front side of his car, and following him behind was his freshman league teammate Cryptech, who went too deep into the corner. He was fortunate enough to keep his car out of the barrier, and a lap later, Tiger, you yourself went in a bit too wide on entry and to turn 18. Unfortunately, put in 2 wheels on the grass and under braking caused the last week's race winner to spin off into the barrier, collecting rear damage that cost him a lot of time in the race and also coming into the pits for repairs. Another driver to unfortunately crash at the turn 18-19 section was GJ in the Subaru, someone who's had quite an unlucky start to this championship. But after watching the replay, from my point of view, he took too much curb on the inside, which unsettled his car, causing him to spin and sent him into a trip to the barrier, giving him damage to the rear of his car. However, he decided to stay out, but that gave us a good battle between himself and Joe Black. However, Joe was able to go round the outside of him turn 1, but due to the damage, the Subaru was still able to put up a good fight. So it was good to see the GJ trying to fight back despite the damage that was given to his car. However, about 5 minutes later, GJ, with his rear damage, went a little bit too wide on the exit of turn 17, potentially trying to go for a move round the outside or the dirty air affecting his car. He lost the rear of the car again and unfortunately gave quite a big impact into the barrier, causing damage to pretty much the whole car. I believe it was just his front left suspension that wasn't damaged, but it's unfortunate for him. And then a few laps later, yourself, Tig, was able to catch up to Joe Black after he had his incident on lap 2. However, with 36 minutes to go, there was quite a controversial moment in the race where you were going side by side with him in turn 1, and obviously yourself being on the outside was, some might say, squeezed off onto the grass and almost into the barrier. But what are your views on it, Tuso?
Yeah, so I think we had a conversation about this after race. I think me, us three. And yeah, if you look at the stream, Tiger is, alongside Joe, so ahead of Joe when they go to the braking zone. They're side by side, and when you're side by side another driver into turn one, like Kyoto is, you can easily get two cars through there side by side. It's not a problem. It's not Monaco. And I think that where Tiger was, compared to where Joe was, Tiger was enough alongside definitely to warrant space on the outside. And I think Joe just didn't give him any, so I'd be very, very surprised if he didn't pick up a penalty of some description for that in the next race. But for me, Tiger he should not have been on the grass on the exit of that corner. No way, not in my opinion.
I don't know, I'm sure the stewards will have a look at it and find out, and we'll find out next week if what penalty he's given, if any penalty is given. But besides that, Holland Campion and Joe Black were going side by side, and unfortunately, in the background, Cryptek tried to capitalise on their battling and try to get around the outside of Joe Black, but unfortunately, he went too late onto the brakes and got onto the grass and span into the barrier once again at turn 18 and 19. So those two corners proven to be quite tricky for a few of these drivers. And but besides that, there was a good battle towards the front of the grid between Tobster and Toussaint. Once again, you two having a bit of a battle up for second place, similar to like Spain. I'm sure you're quite familiar with the rear of that Honda.
Yeah, but can I just say something though? Because when me and Toss was having our battle, I think it was about half an hour left or just over that. Like I lost force feedback in my wheel, so I turned into the corner, but my steering just went light, and I lost about 7 or 8 seconds by the end of the race. So I was really looking forward to having a proper battle again with Todd, but I just couldn't keep up with 'cause my force feed. It just went, and then it came back, but it was like the wheel weighed, like an elephant. It was so heavy to turn into every single corner. I nearly put out my flipping shoulder trying to just keep up with Topster. But yeah, so unfortunately, I can treat you guys to more of a battle.
Unfortunate there for yourself, but both of you are putting no interesting. Both of you putting different amounts of fuel. I noticed Tobster put in pretty much a full tank, while yourself, you say, put in I think just over half a tank or something like that. And how important is it to get this strategy right with the tires and how much fuel goes in Tiger?
Yeah, definitely. It's really important. I mean, in GT Sport, it's actually getting the right fuel and having the right tires is actually really, really key. And because GT Sport, if it relies on how much fuel in your car, relies on actually how much speed you go because of the weight of the fuel. Actually, it actually really affects the cars in GT Sport. So for me in that race, I overfueled by about 5 laps, which really affected me trying to move my way back up the grid after my my spin off. But yeah, it's crucial really, and especially with next season, if the the fuel depletion and the tire depletion has changed, so it's a lot more, and we start to see people using a lot more of the soft and the medium and the hard tires. Strategy is going to become even more of a key thing in the GT Sport League, and yeah, it's going to become an important thing. And getting the fuel, the amount of fuel that you need in the car, and the amount of laps that you need, and taking the tires to how long they need to go is going to be one of the biggest things in the next season in the league.
Definitely, and unfortunately, Cryptek made a mistake in the middle of the part of the track. I didn't quite see where he went off and was unable to continue and decided to retire the car. Probably not the best way he wanted his debut to go. But later on in the race, Duke and Jojo had their battle for fourth place, which continued for the rest of the race, similarly with, almost similarly with Toussaint and Tobster, and GJ having his battle with Joe at the back for ninth. GJ, however, tried to go round the outside and then hit the barrier on the right-hand side of his car, giving him suspension damage, and despite that, was actually able to keep up with Joe Blacks, and those two continued to battle. But once again, Play Dutchy picks up another win. His fourth win, I believe, in the GT Sport League. But however, with only 8 corners to go, I was left speechless when this happened, and so was Thunder. Tobster, who was running in second place, disconnected from the race. And obviously in GT Sport, unlike F1, when you disconnect, your car just retires, it just leaves. No AI takes over, and that was able to gift Toussaint and Jojo Power the podium. It's really unfortunate for him. However, in terms of the championship, Toussaint now extends his gap at the top after Duke finished in fourth place, I believe. So he extends his gap at the top by 10 points to Duke in second, and Jojo jumping Tiger up into third place. So it's a good race from those two, and unfortunately Duke and Tiger kind of left out a little bit with their points in that race. But that is the end of the GT Sport race. Make sure you go check out all the races from the weeks, and I shall now hand over to your freshman and academy weekend league and Golden Crown commentator Tiger for the F1 section.
Thank you very much, XLE and Toussaint. But just before we start, if my mic starts to go haywire, please let me know so I don't carry on talking and then you aren't able to hear me. But the F1 section. So we'll start with the big news. The main news from mainly the Golden Crown is what we're going to start with. That the Super League, and you two will not be happy to hear this, won the Golden Crown Championship, and after a pretty good race out in Interlagos, but yeah, they had to deal with Interlagos first before they were able to get that win. But so we'll start with you two, Saint. We saw you and the Premier Series team didn't get the start that you wanted for the Golden Crown in Interlagos, and it wasn't the best quali from you. Could you tell us what exactly happened in that quali?
Yeah, I think that LLP2 we had before the race affected me more than I would have liked, obviously. I think I just couldn't get in a good rhythm in that quali session. I think all through the practice, all through the day, when we came together and did practice, I was in the, 8.5s, 8.6s. It wasn't pole, lap time, as it turned out, but it was enough to put me higher up the grid. But then we got to the qualifying session and something just didn't feel right, and I was stuck in the 1 minute nines, and it was just a bit of a tough quality session for there. I said sorry to the team and everything like that, but yeah, to be honest, I couldn't really tell you what happened there. It was just a bad quality from me.
Yeah, and the Premier Series team struggled a little bit during the race as well, but we'll get onto that in a second. But there was a crazy start once again in the Golden Crown with MQD having a collision and spinning around in the background, and then Toussaint, we saw you get a bit of damage off of a loose car coming across the track. I believe it was Cryptech after he was having a little battle with someone else. It was to race an incident, wasn't anything intentional there, but that hindered your race even more. But we'll get onto the amazing comeback that you made a little bit later. But there was on the third lap, however, there was a big crash with Bruzy hitting the wall in the exit of turn 4, bringing out the safety car, which brought a big change to the race for all of the drivers. But you and Toussaint were quite close to him. But could you tell us what exactly happened to him?
So I believe it was coming through turn 4, I believe, and it was on the exit of that corner, and I think he's gone a little bit wide onto the curb and has put the foot down on the power a little bit too soon, and that's caused his rears to spin quickly, heat up, and that's caused the rear of his car to spin. I think he hit the barrier on the left-hand side, so it's unfortunate for him and obviously the rest of his team, but yeah, it's an unfortunate incident.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was quite a big crash actually. But after the safety car, but a battle between Shankster and It's Jax, or it's Dax as I like to call him. But more on that meme a little bit later. But across the whole race, just a little meme. Okay, it's nothing much, but across the whole race, there were many battles. There was There was tons of battles. If you want to go and watch that race, go back and watch it. It is on the Gavra Racing YouTube channel, where we are 920 subs at the moment. So if you haven't already, go subscribe over there, so we can get to 1,000. But yeah, all the races are over there from across all of the leagues that we've spoken about. But yeah, there was so many battles. We'd be here all day speaking about them. But on a smaller note, and it's unfortunate I'm going to have to speak about this, and this is from both races. There were some problems under the safety car once again, and now it was being addressed in it's been addressed to me by multiple people that there are still people moving too slowly under the safety car, and that there are too many collisions happening. too many collisions happening under the safety car. But we've spoken about this before in a previous podcast, and but I'm going to address it again because I feel like it needs to be drilled into these drivers' heads what needs to happen under the safety car. But Toussaint, I think you could give us a little bit, just a small insight, nothing too long, but since we've already spoken about this before, just about what needs to be done under the safety car to avoid so many collisions and so much damage between the drivers.
Yeah, I think if you want the full thing, just go watch episode 6 of the podcast, I believe it is. Should all be in the playlist once this one is uploaded. But yeah, it's a subject that I didn't really want to bring up again, but I think it's a double-edged sword, the safety car on this game. Hopefully it's fixed in 2020, but when you decide to accelerate as the leader, you need to make sure that you're not going to catch the safety car before it goes into the pits. Because from my perspective, what was happening was drivers were going and then they didn't realize that the safety car wasn't going to be in the pits, so then the speed limiter kicked into the game, the inbuilt speed limiter to stop drivers from just driving off into the distance under the safety car restart. But when that kicks in, it causes a chain reaction. Definitely will, because then all of the cars in front of them accelerate up to 100 and something miles an hour, and then all of a sudden they slow back down to 70.
Yeah.
There's only so
Yeah,
much a
no,
human reaction can do.
definitely.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword, because then people were going really slow on the safety car, like the leader was going very slow on the safety car. But then what that does is, because of the nature of the track in Brazil, maybe this is just a product of how the track was built, but you have cars 3-4 wide, all trying to match each other's pace. But what we need to do is you just need to stay behind the car in front. I know the game allows you to go alongside, but when that happens, it's a mess.
Yeah.
Really, and that's what we need to have a look at on the safety car. Because right now it's, I mean, I know the game allows you to go on side. You can do that in real life and such, but we're not F1 drivers, guys.
Yeah,
You
no,
know,
definitely.
we're playing the
I
game from
think
inside our
I,
houses in quarantine at the moment. But I feel like that's what
I
needs to be done
think
on the safety
yeah, I
car.
think maybe it's also to do partly with how the game is. I think it would be a lot different if it was actually F1, but the way the game's programmed and the way the game's designed is, you stick behind that car and you can go alongside them, and then you can, you have to wait for that safety car to come in. Whereas in real life, you might be able to go a little bit earlier. Or do you know what I mean? Like, it can be the way the game is as well programmed. But in fairness, yeah, the drivers do need to, just stick behind one another, and also if you overtaking, under the safety car, if you pass someone under the safety car, give the position back, unless that person has gone off the track, or unless that person has retired the car, then you need to give that position back, because there shouldn't be any overtaking under the safety car. If I'm correct, Toussaint, I think that should be right, isn't it? Yeah, it's usually no overtaking under the safety car. So in that point, you really should be given the point. You should be giving that position back to the drivers. But I'm sure you agree as well, Excited, with what me and Toussaint have said, that about all of these different points that we've given.
And also with overtaking, there is something that I've noticed as well when people overtake under the safety car is, obviously you get the message at the top saying illegal overtake. So what they would immediately do is slam on the brakes.
Yeah.
I think what we need to do is be a bit more conservative when we're under the safety car. Make sure if we are slowing down, maybe if we're weaving to warm up the tyres, or if we're having to slam on the brakes for the car in front, try and make sure, look around you, make sure there's no cars that right behind you, so you're not going to either hit him or he's going to hit you. So that's just something I'd like to add.
I think drivers maybe panic a little bit when they see that it's an illegal overtake and it's going to give them a penalty. So they're like, oh no, I need to slam the anchors on here to make sure I'm not going to get past him. But as he's saying, just be aware of your surroundings, and at that point, and just slow on the brakes, nice and easy, so it gives the car enough time to react. But thank you to you two for your input on that subject. But we're going to go on to a little bit more of a better note now. And after all of that, Toussaint, after your pit stop, you came from 18th, 18th to 3rd. So another amazing comeback for you in the Golden Crown. You seem to be doing that a lot in the Golden Crown series, and it was And you actually got driver of the race, so that was
I did.
well deserved there. Yes, you did. You got driver of the race that first race.
Finally. All the time in the Premier Series, I never ever got it.
No, you got driver of that first race after your amazing comeback that you did as well. But I've lost myself now. And yeah, it's Adam Grin. Here we go. And Adam Grin won the first race again for the Super League. And I have to say, I'm sure you guys will agree, but the Academy team, as we've all known, they've had a little bit of a controversial start to, being in with the rest of the teams, a little bit of controversial races in the Golden Crown. But I mean, what a performance they put on that race. I mean, it was excellent. Pope Amares on top of their game. And as I'm going to speak about in the second race, RCA, I mean, what a race from him as well, guys. I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah, I think from the Academy team, big redemption arc for those guys. They really went out there today and did their league proud, I think. Or today, last week even. They went out there and did their league proud after the first couple races. A lot of people were like, a little bit like, why are they here? But they proved why they're here, and they proved why they're racing Gavra and why they're both extremely quick drivers, and RC8 as well. Massive redemption from him. I think they've made their league look good in Brazil. So yeah, really happy for them.
Yeah, definitely. And moving on to the second race, and it brought even more drama when Shankster was spun around on the first few corners. And we've seen a couple of drivers, you should see quite a lot of drivers, when they make contact, they spin around on the turns 1 to 3 going down the hill. It's always a tricky one for the drivers. And then Toussaint, you dropped back a few places as well on the start. I believe there was a little bit of contact between a few of the drivers, but then we lost 2 of your teammates. It just didn't go well for the Premier Series team on the weekend, and I think the freshmen had a lot of troubles as well in that race around Interlagos. But we lost Black Country and Sabo in that race. I believe we lost Oriole as well for the freshmen. So, but there was a major incident, a big crash, I have to say. When Angrin, there was a bit of lag. I believe you were alongside him, Toussaint, but I know the incident wasn't any of your fault. You were just going alongside him. But there was a big incident where there's a bit of lag, and it's Jax from behind hit Atmgren. It wasn't intentional. It was just because of the way the lag was. But hit Atmgren, he went flying around and smacked into the wall on the left hand side. It was a huge crash, and unfortunately, that was Atmgren out of that race after he was looking to try and win a second race here. And remember, that grid was reversed, so it really put a mix in, and Atmgren had to start all the way down from 8th place in that race. And it was a big crash. And at the end of the second race, after all of the drama and the safety cars, RCA, the Academy League driver, who we have not seen much, well, we did see a few spells in the Academy from him, some good performances, but he won that race, and an amazing for the Academy driver, and added to their amazing performance in there. So well done to him. But that was all from the Golden Crown. Now we're going to move on to the Weekend League. The Weekend League, our newest driver, Jay Fetcher, started off with a pole in qualifying, and it was a really good time there. And then in the race, we saw Matt Prince spin off at turn 1, and turn 1 seemed to be a tricky corner, as it always seems to be in all of these German Grand Prix. And Exani, how difficult was it to get that corner correct and not lose the back of the car?
So yeah, in the Weekend League, obviously 25% race, so I think it was 14 laps. So obviously with 2 races, you've got to try and perfect each corner 28 times. And turn 1 at Germany, it's quite a tricky one. Obviously, it's quite a high-speed corner. It's not. You could say it's kind of a blind apex because you don't often see where the curb is. So you've got to kind of judge you kind of approach the 50-meter ball and then you just see it there on the right-hand side. And obviously, it's a high-speed corner. Turning too early, you'll get a warning for corner cutting. Turning in too late, you'll get a warning for exceeding track limits. And obviously, if you do get onto the power too early or go in too quickly, get on the curb and then you're easily round, and then there's a barrier to greet you on the right hand side. So, yeah, it's quite tricky. And also, it's not really known for taking corner in the track, so that's what makes it kind of even trickier.
Yeah, definitely, and it punished a few of the drivers. I believe Boy may have had a few spins in one of the races on that lap there in the German Grand Prix. But Jay Fletcher had a bit of a poor start as well, moving from first down to seventh, and then retired the car after he had a bit of a spin after the safety car restart, and then once again. An amazing race from the weekend lead drivers. So many overtakes again. A lot of them seem to be down at that end hairpin after that long back straight with the DRS. So, it seems to be a lot of cars making overtakes down there. But Xanny came out on top in that first race, and you actually managed to win that one. So well done to you. Big points for you in the championship. And in the second race, full dominance from Jay Fletcher, qualified pole, I believe, finished on the top, so well done to him. And I believe he actually beat the Gavra Racing lap record by a decent amount. I believe it was about 1.3 seconds, so it's just crazy pace from him. I mean, absolutely insane. So he's a driver to watch in this league, and it was a slightly calmer second race, however, but it was a little bit more about strategy in that one, as it was a battle really between who came in first for the mediums and who came in last on those medium tires. But the strategy ruined the VSC. Ruined the strategy for some drivers. I believe Absolute 11 suffered in that race, and Dan Schneider pitted early, forcing a reaction from quite a lot of the other drivers, which, as I was talking about there, the strategy as well there. But the VSC did help out a few of the drivers, Jay Fletcher being one of them up at the top, which is why he had such a dominant race. But after that race, as I said, Jay Fletcher got the win. But Naddy, you'll be happy to hear this, 20 points ahead in the championship with two tracks left, but 4 races. As remember, we have 2 25% races. So just a quick question: do you reckon you'll be able to win it?
Yep.
Okay, good one.
Nice.
But I reckon as long as I keep it clean and consistent, score some decent points, then hopefully I'll be able to keep the lead at the top. And obviously, it is really close in the top 5. I think the top 5 is separated by like 25 points or something, and from second to 5th being separated by about 5. So, yeah, as long as I've just got to keep focus, score some decent, consistent points, then hopefully I'll be able to bring home the title.
Yeah, definitely. And but yeah, that's everything from me in the F1. But remember, if you want to watch any of the races that have happened from Project Cars, GT Sport, or F1, and if you want to see all the overtakes and crashes that have happened, make sure you go to our YouTube channel. And I'm going to pass back over to Tucson 0208, the man himself, for the final section, where it is not a driver interview today. And I think, Tucson, you're going to talk about that.
Yeah, I am. So this week we have switched up a little bit. We're trying a couple new things. Let you guys know, let us know even if you enjoy this style of stuff. We might do this every other week and have driver interviews every other week. But we're going to move straight into some real world stuff now, which we haven't done for a while. I think since about episode 3 or 4, really, just to cut down the length of the episodes. But F1 2020, the season starts next week, and the game comes out, I believe, for Tuesday the week after. So we're going to go straight into the F1 2020 game. So what features are you looking forward to the most, guys?
My team.
My team.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll my team. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's going to be quite a quick section, apparently, everybody. Natty, what are you going to call your my team?
I believe we had a question on this in the podcast. I think it was episode 5.
I think so,
and
yeah.
So if you haven't watched that, then firstly, you should go watch it. And secondly, it's going to be called Ribena Racing.
And I think, well, what was your
Of course.
you decided what driver you're going to go for straight off the bat? Do you think you're going to go for an F2 driver? You're going to try and go for an F1 driver?
For me, I think I'm going to try and go for maybe someone at the bottom, maybe like George Russell, maybe, because he's got got good potential, and he isn't a bad rating actually. So might go for someone like him. If I can't afford him, it might have to be an F2 driver. But he's the main driver I'm aiming for. But I'm not sure what you two are going to go for.
Yeah, I was gonna. Ginetta, what about you?
I reckon at the start of the game, you'll either have to either sacrifice car for a good driver or sacrifice a good driver for a good car. So we'll see what happens at the time. But I'm considering an F2 driver, maybe Nick De Vries or someone of that. We'll have to obviously. It'll be easier to pick a driver when we see all the ratings on one screen, and as well, it obviously depends how much money we get, with the in-game budget. So I'm considering an F2 driver.
Yeah, I'm going for Mahavir Raghunathan. But
Of course you are. Of course.
yeah, you got to go for Lord Mahavir. But anyway, speaking of driver ratings, shall we have a little chat about those? Because
This may be a long, this may be a long section now.
There are conversations about this in like PlayStation parties and stuff with quite a few of us. But I've got all the ratings up on my screen now, and it's not. I think the way they've done these ratings is it's more based on the car that the drivers were in last year than the driver's ability.
Yeah. Can I just quickly
Can
point out? I think mainly if the driver didn't race last season, it's from whichever season they race. Like for example, Ocon, or I don't know what they're gonna do with what's his name? Williams
Latifi.
driver.
Latifi.
Yeah, Latifi, that's his name, yes. But I don't know what they get. I think Ocon, they're going to do it from the season he was in F1. But that's what they've done, obviously. But I think the rest of the drivers, it was mainly based off of last season. So someone like, I think you're going to talk about it, Tuesday. I think someone like Daniel Ricciardo is underrated because of the car that he was in last season. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah, that Daniel Ricciardo maybe deserves a higher rating.
I was literally about to come on to that.
Yeah,
I think, Ricciardo probably shouldn't be as high as Verstappen or Leclerc. Even can't believe I forgot that name. But I think he was. I would say his drive last year in comparison to the car he was in, he should have the same rating as Vettel. I think because right now Vettel's on 89 and he's on 87 overall. But yeah, I think that's the way that should have been around. But I think the thing that kind of gets me is they've put Bottas ahead of Verstappen, Leclerc.
Yeah, that's where I think maybe that's where the car also is coming into play there as well. Yeah. But carry on, sorry.
Yeah, and I think that Leclerc and Vettel should probably be equal pegging, but I think Bottas is the only driver who has a 99 stat for any out of all of the drivers on the grid. He's the only one who has a 99 stat. Not even Hamilton has one like that. It's also a bit weird that Albon and Gasly. Albon has about half a season. I think about half a season less than Gasly, or a season and a half less. But his experience is only one. Some of it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but yeah, those are the driver ratings though, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out in the game actually, because I think despite Vettel being the fifth or sixth highest rated driver, he is the second most expensive, I believe, because of that big money contract he was on with Ferrari before Leclerc. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out in the game, but we are going to move on to some new online features in the spectator cam specifically, which might make commentary a lot more interesting, like a lot more interesting. Hopefully. I was so happy when you told me about this, Tiger, but it looks like we might be getting pit stop window information and such in the game.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
I was gonna say, yeah, I've been watching a few videos on F1, and I had a look on about the spectator mode, because you all know me, I'm a big commentator for F1 for Gavra, so I'm always looking for some good stuff in the spectator mode. And as he said, yeah, there'll be a pit window. Also, I believe there's supposed to be the strategy it's supposed to tell you, and I think it's supposed to tell you the strategy that the driver is on, maybe as well. I think that's what one of the game devs was saying in an interview. So that'll be good. And also, I've been reading about everywhere, and there may also be a possible replay feature. So if Codemasters, if you bring a replay feature, I'm gonna love you, because I that's what I need, is a replay feature. Because I'm always like, I'm sure you're the same too, Saint, and you. I mean, not you, Natty. You already have a replay feature. You're not in this, but me and Two Saint, we're always like, oh, did this happen? Did this happen? Did this happen? But if they have a replay feature, do you know what I mean? Then we can confirm what actually happened in that position and maybe make our own form of judgment on what's happened there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's going to be interesting to see how that works in the game. And hopefully they do bring it out in the launch spec version. Have to wait for a patch or anything like that. But it's nice to have our opinions there on the F1 2020 video game. But moving from the game into IRL, over the past 3 weeks, we've seen a lot of F1 teams finally get back out on track. They had shakedowns all around Europe, America, wherever. But it's finally looking like we're getting this season up and running, guys. And they're going to be on track next week, Sunday, for the Austrian Grand Prix, first of a back-to-back Austrian Grand Prix. So how much are you guys looking forward to that? It has been a while.
I think we all can't wait for it. I'm sure it's the same feeling for everyone in the league, but yeah, it's gonna be a great day.
Obviously, we've had the virtual 24 Hours of Le Mans, which happened last week, I believe it was, and that was also nice to watch, as well as live IndyCar event, which was also the first the first motorsport event to be had. I think looks like we're finally getting things back up to some kind of normal. It's almost an end now to this stuff, but yeah, thanks everyone for watching episode 8 of the podcast. It's been crazy, been doing this for 8 weeks. But I've said that at the beginning, I'm going to say it at the ending again. But like, yeah, we're going to do this as long as we can. And yeah, this has been me, Tsono208.
Me, Tiger Assassin.
And myself, X-Natty.
Yeah, signing off, and we hope to see you next week.